About approaching this role, I mean, did you think that it was going to have such an impact on so many generations?
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I really had I had just become a member of the Actors Studio, and I didn't really want to do it, but they weren't happy with the person who did the pilot.
When Gilligan's Island first aired in 1964, few expected it to become one of the most enduring and beloved sitcoms in television history. With its lighthearted humor, quirky castaways, and unforgettable theme song, the series quickly captured the hearts of millions. For decades, fans laughed along as Gilligan bungled rescue attempts, the skipper lost his patience, and the eclectic group of stranded islanders dreamed of returning home. But what most people never realized was that life behind the scenes was far more complicated than the tropical paradise depicted on screen. At the center of the show's glamour was Tina Louise, who played the sultry movie star Ginger Grant. With her fiery red hair, glamorous wardrobe, and irresistible charm, she became an instant icon. To viewers, Ginger was the embodiment of Hollywood glitz, a perfect contrast to the other castaways. Yet Tina Louise herself has revealed in recent years that her experience on the show was not as idyllic as it appeared. For decades, Tina kept many of her feelings about Gilligan's Island private, choosing to remain quiet while the show became a cultural phenomenon in reruns. Now, she has opened up about the challenges she faced on set, her complicated relationship with the role of Ginger, and the real reasons she distanced herself from the series after it ended. Her revelations shed new light on the dynamics between cast members, the behind-the-scenes struggles, and the lasting impact the show had on her career and personal life. What Tina Louise finally shared may surprise even the most devoted fans of Gilligan's Island, and it changes the way we understand. When Tina Louise first joined the cast of Gilligan's Island, she had already built a reputation as a talented actress and model. Born Tina Blacker in 1934, she had trained seriously in New York, studying acting at the prestigious neighborhood playhouse. By the early 1960s, she had appeared in Broadway productions, feature films, and even graced the pages of popular magazines. To many, she was seen as a rising star destined for Hollywood greatness. So when she accepted the role of Ginger Grant, the glamorous movie star stranded on a deserted island, it seemed like a natural fit. Yet, as Tina has since revealed, the opportunity turned out to be both a blessing and a curse. From the very beginning, Gilligan's Island was not the kind of project Tina envisioned for herself. She had serious ambitions as an actress and longed for roles in meaningful dramas that would showcase her depth and talent. Playing Ginger, however, placed her squarely in a comedic role that leaned heavily on her looks rather than her abilities. She later admitted that when she first signed on, she was led to believe the show would focus more on Ginger as the central character, with the stories revolving around her glamorous persona. When filming began, however, it became clear that the spotlight was shared equally among the ensemble cast, often with Bob Denver's Gilligan stealing the scene. This shift in creative direction left Tina feeling frustrated. According to her later interviews, she quickly realized that the role risked typecasting her as nothing more than the sexy movie star. While audiences adored Ginger Grant, Tina longed to stretch herself artistically, and she worried that the show would limit her future opportunities in Hollywood. Her family and colleagues have also acknowledged that Tina felt somewhat isolated on set. While she maintained a professional relationship with her castmates, she often stood apart from the tight-knit camaraderie that developed among the others. Cast members like Alan Hale Jr., the skipper, and Bob Denver, Gilligan, were known for their playful, easygoing rapport, both on and off camera. Tina, however, kept her distance, focusing instead on delivering her performance and preparing for what she hoped would be bigger roles beyond the island. What fans didn't see was the inner conflict Tina carried during the run of the series. On one hand, she was grateful for the visibility Gilligan's Island provided. After all, it made her a household name and cemented her in television history. On the other, she worried that the glamorous veneer of Ginger Grant would overshadow everything else she had worked so hard to achieve. She feared audiences and casting directors would forever link her to the role, leaving her few chances to prove herself in more serious parts. These frustrations were compounded by the show's reception. While Gilligan's Island was beloved by audiences, it was often dismissed by critics as lightweight, even silly entertainment. Tina, who had trained in classical acting and aspired to greater dramatic roles, bristled at the idea of being associated with what many in the industry considered lowbrow comedy. Yet, despite her private reservations, Tina delivered Ginger with elegance, wit, and undeniable charm. She may not have felt entirely at home in the role, but she brought a glamour and sophistication to the show that balanced its slapstick humor. Fans adored her character, and Ginger became one of the most iconic elements of the series. Looking back, Tina has admitted that her experience on Gilligan's Island was far more complicated than most fans realized. The role gave her fame, but also limited her artistic growth, leaving her caught between gratitude and regret. What she revealed years later sheds light on the hidden tensions behind the beloved sitcom's sunny exterior and this beloved television classic. When Gilligan's Island wrapped after 3 seasons in 1967, fans assumed Tina Louise would continue her career seamlessly, perhaps even capitalizing on the fame of her role as Ginger Grant. But as Tina herself later revealed, the aftermath of the series was far more complicated. While the show quickly found a second life in syndication, becoming a beloved staple of reruns for generations, Tina faced the very challenge she had feared all along: typecasting. Despite her prior work on Broadway and in films, Hollywood casting directors now saw her almost exclusively as the glamorous Ginger. Producers sought her out for similar bombshell roles, but Tina longed to expand her range and prove herself in serious dramas. She tried to distance herself from Gilligan's Island, rarely participating in reunions or public events connected to the show. To many fans, her absence was puzzling, even disappointing. But Tina has explained that it was her way of trying to protect her identity as an actress. Her decision to step away also created speculation about her relationship with her former castmates. While many of them embraced the enduring popularity of the series, Tina often remained on the sidelines. She wasn't hostile, but she kept her distance, focusing instead on new projects. According to her, the choice was less about resentment and more about survival in a competitive industry where labels could define or destroy a career. Even with her efforts, breaking free from Ginger Grant proved difficult. She landed roles in films like The Wrecking Crew alongside Dean Martin and appeared in television dramas, but she struggled to shake off the shadow of Gilligan's Island. Casting agents and audiences still associated her with the glamorous redhead on the deserted island. For Tina, this was both a professional and personal frustration. She had always taken her craft seriously, and being reduced to a stereotype felt like an insult to her dedication and training. Her family later revealed that this period was particularly challenging for her. Tina often questioned whether accepting the role of Ginger had been the right choice in the first place. Though it brought her fame, it also brought limitations she never anticipated. At times, she even felt overshadowed by the continued popularity of the show, which thrived in syndication and introduced her character to younger generations who had never seen the series during its original run. In candid interviews years later, Tina admitted that she sometimes felt misunderstood by the public. Fans assumed she distanced herself from the show out of arrogance, but in reality, it was born from a desire to grow. She didn't want her entire life defined by one role, no matter how iconic it was. Still, her distance from Gilligan's Island didn't erase its impact on her. Tina acknowledged that the show shaped her career in ways both positive and negative. On one hand, it gave her a level of visibility that most actors only dream of. On the other, it tethered her to a role that limited her artistic choices. The truth she later revealed is that she carried this conflict for much of her life, a constant push and pull between embracing the character fans loved and carving out a broader legacy as a serious actress. Her story in the years after the series reminds us of the complexities actors face when they become part of a cultural phenomenon. For Tina Louise, the role of Ginger Grant was never just another job. It was a defining experience that shaped, challenged, and at times frustrated her career in ways fans never fully understood until she spoke out. As Tina Louise moved further away from the world of Gilligan's Island, she began focusing on reinventing herself both professionally and personally. Unlike many of her co-stars who fully embraced their connection to the show, Tina wanted to prove there was more to her than Ginger Grant's glamorous image. To achieve this, she carefully selected roles that contrasted with her sitcom persona, opting for serious dramas, independent films, and stage work. Her determination to distance herself from typecasting took her into unexpected places. In the 1970s, she appeared in gritty films such as The Stepford Wives and Mean Dog Blues, showing audiences a darker, more serious side of her acting ability. She also worked steadily in television dramas, including guest roles on Mannix, Bonanza, and The Love Boat, though she remained selective about projects that leaned too heavily into comedy. To Tina, Ginger Grant was a chapter she respected but didn't want to repeat. What fans may not have realized at the time was that Tina's retreat from the limelight wasn't just about career decisions. It was also about reclaiming her personal identity. After years of being labeled Hollywood's glamorous redhead, she wanted a life that felt more authentic and grounded. She began focusing on writing and painting, pursuing creative outlets that weren't tied to her celebrity status. She even authored several books, including a children's book that revealed a softer, nurturing side many fans didn't expect. Her family later revealed that Tina was deeply committed to causes that mattered to her, particularly education and literacy. She spent years volunteering in schools, encouraging children to discover the joy of reading. This passion reflected a side of her life far removed from the bright lights of Hollywood, a quieter, more personal legacy that mattered deeply to her. While millions remembered her as Ginger, the people closest to her saw someone who cared deeply about using her platform to inspire and educate. Despite her reluctance to participate in Gilligan's Island reunions, Tina was not entirely disconnected from her castmates. Over the years, she shared warm, private moments with some of them, though she maintained a professional distance from the franchise itself. According to friends, this wasn't out of bitterness, but rather a need to preserve her independence as an actress. She respected her co-stars, but felt that stepping back was necessary for her own peace of mind. In interviews, Tina admitted she was proud of Gilligan's Island's enduring success, even if she didn't always show it publicly. She recognized that the series had brought joy to millions of people and continued to entertain new generations long after its original run. But she also acknowledged the personal cost of being so strongly tied to a single role. The truth she revealed was that, while fans adored Ginger, Tina herself often struggled with the weight of living in Ginger's shadow. Her later years brought perspective. Rather than rejecting her past, she began to accept it as part of who she was, an actress who, whether she liked it or not, had created one of the most memorable sitcom characters in television history. She softened in her public stance about the show, even expressing gratitude for the fans who kept the legacy alive. In this way, Tina found balance, acknowledging the cultural phenomenon of Gilligan's Island while still defining her life on her own terms. The surprising part, which many fans never figured out until she spoke openly, was that Tina's story wasn't about rejecting Ginger. It was about learning how to live with her. In her later years, Tina Louise's relationship with Gilligan's Island entered a new phase, one defined not by rejection, but by reflection. While she never fully embraced the reunions or spin-offs that her co-stars participated in, she grew more open to acknowledging the role Ginger Grant played in shaping her career. Fans who had long wondered why she seemed distant from the franchise finally began to understand her perspective, as she candidly discussed it in interviews. She explained that Ginger had been both a blessing and a burden. On one hand, the character gave her worldwide recognition and a place in television history. On the other, it created a typecasting barrier that made it difficult to secure roles that matched her true range as an actress. Tina revealed that it wasn't dislike for her co-stars or bitterness toward the show. It was her own fight to be taken seriously outside of the sitcom world. This distinction is what most fans had never figured out. As time passed, however, Tina came to view Gilligan's Island with a softer heart. She admitted that the show had brought joy to countless people, especially children who tuned in during reruns long after the original series ended. She shared that strangers often approached her with heartfelt stories about how the show gave them laughter during tough times. Those encounters left her deeply moved, showing her that Ginger Grant had meant far more to audiences than she had once realized. Away from the screen, Tina built a meaningful life centered on personal passions. She dedicated herself to literacy programs, volunteering in schools, and encouraging young children to read. Her commitment to education became one of her proudest achievements, proving that her legacy stretched well beyond Hollywood. She also continued painting and writing, quietly building a body of work that allowed her to express herself creatively without the constraints of the entertainment industry. When asked about her memories of her Gilligan's Island co-stars, Tina spoke with warmth, even if she had remained somewhat distant from the reunions. She praised Bob Denver for his comedic genius and remembered Dawn Wells for her kindness and dedication to fans. She even admitted that while she and some cast members didn't always see eye to eye during filming, time had softened those memories. Ultimately, she considered them all part of a unique family that had left an undeniable mark on pop culture. The most revealing truth, which Tina shared in her later interviews, was that her decision to step away from the show wasn't about anger, it was about survival. She needed to build a life and career that belonged to her, not just to Ginger. Fans often misunderstood her silence or absence as disinterest, but the reality was more complex. Tina wanted to be more than a single character, yet she also never stopped appreciating the millions who loved her for it. As she reached her 80s and 90s, Tina Louise became one of the last surviving cast members of Gilligan's Island. This gave her a unique position as the keeper of its history. She acknowledged that in many ways the show had given her something priceless: immortality. Ginger Grant remained alive in reruns, DVDs, and streaming platforms, introducing new generations to the quirky island adventures. For Tina, this realization was both humbling and comforting. In the end, Tina Louise's story is one of reconciliation. She may have resisted being defined by Gilligan's Island, but she ultimately accepted that it was an inseparable part of her legacy. Fans finally learned the truth. Tina didn't hate the show, she was simply searching for herself outside of it. And as she revealed more about her journey, it became clear that the real woman behind Ginger Grant was far more complex, determined, and inspiring than most viewers ever imagined.